channel. Today's video is a book recommendation on existential fiction, the kind of books that make you pause mid-sentence because suddenly you feel seen in a way you did not expect. Over the years, it has become one of my favorite genres, not because it gives you answers, but because it asks the right questions. These books stay with you long after you finish them. They make you question life, meaning, identity, sometimes in ways that don't feel comfortable, but also strangely comforting. I'll be honest, when I first started reading existential fiction, I actually did not get it. I remember picking up The Stranger back in college. Let's be real, I thought they made me look cool, so I would sit in cafes highlighting random lines and pretending I understood it all, when in reality I was just skimming through it. It wasn't until much later when, life felt a little more complicated and uncertain that these books started making more sense to me. So today I wanted to share some of my favorite existential fiction books that have truly stayed with me. For me, it started with Kafka, and honestly I think that's how it starts for a lot of people. There is something about his writing, it's very surreal but painfully real at the same time. Book number 1, Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. So during the pandemic, I had this thought a lot that what if I just disappeared from my life? Would people even notice? And if they did, how long before, they have moved on? That's the unsettling thing about Metamorphosis. It's not about the character turning into a bug. It's about how quickly everyone around him, stops seeing him as a human. At first they're concerned, they're frustrated, but then they eventually just adapt. His family stops speaking to him. They go on, with their own lives as if he never really existed. When I read this, I couldn't help but think how much of our worth is actually tied to, what we can do for people. And if we could no longer be what they expected, would we still matter? Book number 2, The Trial by Franz Kafka. Imagine waking up one morning to find out that you've been arrested, but no one tells you why, so there is no explanation, no clear accusation, just an endless loop of, bureaucratic nonsense that keeps you running in the circles. So the trial is that, that feeling when you're in a government office and they keep transferring you to another department. That's the version of the trial. It's the feeling of that powerlessness, of realizing, oh, it's not the system that's broken. It's designed to confuse you, exhaust you, and keep you stuck there. Book number 3, The Castle by Franz Kafka. So this book is about a man who is trying to reach to a castle. Spoiler alert, he never does. He's given instructions, there are obstacles, false hopes, and more waiting. But somehow this endless loop of effort just starts feeling like life. There's this desire to belong, to prove ourselves. The feeling, the way we chase success. Once I get there, I'll be happy. It's the way we run after degrees and promotions and relationships. Only to find out that there is always another level, always another hustle. The castle never comes into reach, and yet we are convincing ourselves that just a little more effort, just a little more time, then we finally arrive. Kafka understood the exhaustion and all, and it's a great book. It's frustrating and it feels so familiar. Then there is Fernando Pessoa. Now both Franz Kafka and Pessoa, they wrote about isolation, that feeling of being an outsider in your life. But while Kafka's characters are trapped in absurdism or in a bureaucratic mess, Pessoa turns inward. So his struggles are with the society, not with the society, but with himself. So if Franz Kafka's anxiety is external, his is internal. His characters have sort of given up on trying to make sense of anything at all. Book number 4, The Book of Disquiet by Fernando Pessoa. Now, I don't even know how to describe this book. It's not a novel, it's not a diary. Something in between. It's more like fragmented pieces of thoughts, half-finished ideas, poetic observations and ideas, or Restless confessions of a man who is watching life but never really participates in it. You know, the kind of thoughts you have late at night when the world outside feels too quiet. It's one of those books that you don't read in one go, so you pick it up when you need it, you flip to a random page and you find something and it feels like it was written just for you. Then of course there's Albert Camus, the guy who made absurdism make sense. Number 5, The Stranger by Albert Camus. This book is about detachment, about seeing life without the illusions we build around it. So there's this character, Marcelo, and he isn't indifferent to the world, he just, refuses to perform emotions for the sake of appearances. He doesn't cry at his mother's funeral, he doesn't pretend to care about things he doesn't care about. That makes him sort of dangerous to the society, because if we all live in a world where we do share unspoken contract, like we nod, we smile, even though we don't really truly feel them. But this book makes you question, how much of life is actually real and how much is just us going through the motions. Number 6, The Myth of Sisyphus, Albert Camus. Now, this book asks the darkest possible questions. Should we kill ourselves since life has no meaning? And then, he spends the rest of the book arguing why we should not, or why the answer is no. So if life is absurd, if nothing truly matters in the grand scheme of things, then we are free. We are free to create whatever we want to. We're free to create our own meanings, free to enjoy things just because, But there is something strangely comforting about that, because now we don't have to carry the weight of the universe. We just have to find a way to make peace with the whole absurdity of it all. Now, if Albert Camus told us that life has no meaning and we should be okay with it, Sartre took it a step further. He says that you are responsible for creating that meaning. There is no escaping that responsibility. His books talk about not just the existence, but they are crushing the weight of freedom. The idea that every choice you make defines you, and there is no one else who's going to, who will be blamed for who you become. So book number 7, No Exit by Jean-Paul Sartre. Now, it's one of the most interesting short stories, and you've probably heard a very famous line from this one: hell is other people. Now, this line is often misunderstood. Now, he's not trying to say that other people make our life miserable, even though sometimes they do, but we define our lives through, the gaze of others, but through the gaze of others, and that really traps us. So in this story, there are 3 people. They're stuck in a room and there is no exit, and they think about torture like fire and brimstone and all of that, but in reality the real torture is to be seen, exposed and judged with no way out. So the story, it really makes you think about how much of yourself is actually you, and how much of us is, shaped by how others see you. And if you are left with yourself, with nothing but like just your thoughts, would you even recognize yourself? Number 8, Being and Nothingness. Now, this one was a little heavy. This is where he lays out the idea of radical freedom, the fact that every moment you are making choices, and these choices define you. So there is no destiny, no pre-written script, just you deciding who you really are in real time. If you've ever felt like you were waiting for life to happen, that's an illusion. This book really makes you, hyper aware of your decision about your own existence, and it's unsettling, once you actually start thinking about it like that, there is no going back. There is no going back. Number 8, Nausea. Imagine you're waking up one day and feeling completely disconnected from reality. Not like in a dramatic way, but like in small, ordinary moments. So the character in this book, he looks at a tree and suddenly feels so overwhelmed by, the sheer weight of existence, and he starts to realize that this life itself, all the things we all just do, has no inherent meaning. But this is not about like despair, it's about awareness. Like once you start, once you stop searching meaning outside yourself, you realize you're free to create your own. It was liberating and terrifying at the same time. Talking about freedom, Dostoevsky throws that freedom right back at you and asks, can you even handle it? Number 10, Notes from the Underground. Now, this book is about a man who overthinks everything to the point where he self-destructs just because he can. Now, he's cynical, bitter, and full of contradictions. He hates people, but also craves connection. He wants to prove that he's smarter than everyone, but also resents how lonely that makes him. And the worst part about the book, you recognize parts of yourself in him. I mean, have you ever just stopped yourself from doing something like texting someone back or grabbing an opportunity just because you don't have to, just because you could but you did not? It's very uncomfortable and very messy, but really worth the read. Number 11, Crime and Punishment. So in this book, there is this character who murders because he believes he's superior enough to do it. What follows is a very slow and painful unraveling of his mind. So he thought he could just justify why he committed the murder and the morality of it all, but guilt. Guilt doesn't care how smart you are. Crime and Punishment is not about crime, it's about the terrifying ways our mind can betray us. It's about how we rationalize our worst impulses and how we push things down until they creep back in ways that we did not expect. Number 12, The Unbearable Lightness of Being. Now, this book, there is this guy Thomas. He's a man who refuses to be tied down. He doesn't believe in love, commitment, or even morality. All of these are burdens that he does not want to carry. But then there is Teresa, who sees love as something very deep and something that must have weight. So Milan Kundera, he actually weaves these lives together. He explores the swing between these two extremes, wanting freedom but also wanting meaning. It's a great book, it makes you sit with your own contradictions. It makes you question whether life is better when it's light and carefree or when it's heavy with a purpose. Book number 13, The Bell Jar. Now, this is the most depressing book ever. I mean, I get judged every time I pick it up. So there is this character, Greenwood. She seems to have everything. She's young, talented, full of potential. But as the novel unfolds, we watch her go into the spiral of an existential crisis where she's questioning the expectations that are placed on her, and she feels more and more detached from the world around her. Number 14, Stoner by John Williams. This book seems like the most ordinary book in the world. It's the story of a quiet literature professor, William Stoner. No great adventures, no dramatic plots and twists, but somehow by the end of it, you have lived an entire lifetime through him. But that's exactly what makes this book devastating. How we chase meaning in every day, even when the world barely seems to notice it. When we talk about existentialism, we usually hear the same names: Sartre, Camus, Kafka, Dostoevsky. I mean, existentialism has long been dominated by male voices. But what happens when those same questions are asked by a woman? Book number 15, All Men Are Mortal by Simone de Beauvoir. We spend so much of our lives afraid of running out of time, but what if time never ran out? What if we could live forever? So there's this man and he has lived for centuries, watching civilization grow and fall. He has watched people he loves grow old, and while he remained unchanged. At first it seems like immortality is the ultimate freedom, but the book unfolds and we see the weight of it, the loneliness, the detachment, and the realization that when nothing ends, nothing truly matters. And this one makes you question whether is it the death that gives life its meaning. These books don't hand you answers, they don't tie things up neatly. Instead, they leave you with questions, ones that sit with you long after you've read the last page. Maybe that's why these books stay with us, because once you have seen the world through their lens, it's hard to unsee it. So yeah, that was my slightly overwhelming list of existential fiction recommendations. If you have read any of these, books that messed up with your head in the best way possible, please let me know down in the comments. And if you would want to see more of the book recommendations, please like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.